A few words about Professor Awadhesh Kumar Mishra ji. He is a linguist with over 35 years of experience. He currently serves, as I said, as the Chief Academic Coordinator on Deputation at Bharatiya Bhasha Family, Ministry of Education, Government of India. This role commenced in March 2022, building upon an illustrious career in academia. Previously, he has held the position of Professor of Linguistics at the Department of Linguistics, English and Foreign Language University, Shillong campus. You can read more about him on a web link which is provided on the EFL University site as well. With those few words, I request Shri Awadhesh Kumar Mishra ji to unmute himself before he commences this views. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaskar, everyone. As Sri Chamukrishna Shastri ji has already given us some idea about why we need to have this, narrative or discourse come to the fore about the languages of India. So, elaborating on that, I will say, if you look at the history and civilization of India, Indian subcontinent, I would say, then one thing is very clear, that India was not like this, say, some 6,000 or 7,000 years ago. And not even other countries and other continents were like this. Geographically, politically. So, looking at the languages, the civilization, the culture, and other as history of Indian subcontinent from the point of view of, say, only today's geographical and political boundary of India is not correct. So, I'll give you some background that what must have been there in terms of the languages of India. So there are a lot of evidences, and it's proven that some 6,000, 7,000 years ago, before present age, we had connectivity among the present day countries, geographically separated countries, politically separated countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, or Bangladesh, Nepal, Tibet, Myanmar, even part of Iran, etc. So at that time, there must have been a situation where we had all these geographical areas under, say, one idea, the central idea of that India. So there must have been a situation like that a few thousand years ago, before present age. And we have established the linguistics, the archaeology, that there was never a situation that we had, whether in India or in any country, only one language, and that gave birth to the other languages that we have today. So even if we look at the India 6,000-7,000 years before present, that time also there must have been a situation, especially we have a known civilization, that is Mohenjo-daro and Harappa civilizations. We had the Vedic, pre-Vedic and post-Vedic civilizations that continued from, say, Iran. It was extended in a vast area from part of Iran to Afghanistan, present-day Afghanistan, Balochistan, India, up to Kashmir, Tibet, and the West, Gujarat, Maharashtra, etc. So there must have been many languages, and since we do not have the documentary evidence, we don't have the recorded, say, text or inscriptions to show that which languages were actually used at that time. But one of these languages that for which we have some documentary evidences is known as the Vedic, the Rig Veda, the Sanskrit, the language of Sanskrit, because although the Vedic tradition or the linguistic tradition of that period was oral, so it must have existed, the language must have existed many thousand years orally. And later on, after a few millennia, it must have been recorded. The texts must have been written, and this is true for any language of the world. So they begin with oral language, and then after, let's say, some time when the culture develops, the society develops, uh, then they also record the languages. So the oldest text that we have of a language, say 7,000 uh, years ago, BP, before present age. So we have the Rig Veda. And the language of Rig Veda, we all know, was Sanskrit. And as we have grammarians later on, if we look at the 6th century BC grammarian, famous Panini, and as Panini himself has mentioned, and he has taken inspiration also from some 12 or 13 grammarians that existed before him. So even if we take, say, 20 years for a generation for one grammarian, so at least some 250 years prior to, say, 600 BC, we had the tradition of grammar, and so language of Sanskrit was described in, say, proper terms of grammar. And in Patanjali, and also we find Panini, of course, he has mentioned, and Patanjali also had mentioned. He was, say, later than Panini in, say, 5th century BC. And they all mention that when people speak a language, then when they write it, it's different. And when they speak it formally on formal occasions, it's different. And when they speak the same language in society for the day-to-day uses, there may be some changes in pronunciation, the sentence construction. So there are several examples they have given, even Patanjali. And they also did not say that this is Sanskrit and the other languages or dialects, they are non-Sanskrit. Everything was Bhasha, language. Whatever people spoke was language. And only thing that was done by these grammarians, especially Panini, as I understand, was that this uh, that people had, and that we have is if those are not pronounced well, then they lose their potency. So the same is true with prayers in any religion. So we have certain words uttered in a certain say style, certain special lexemes are used, certain words are used. So that was there. So that was kind of fixed and described in those grammarians. So what I say is that there were languages, more than one certainly. It was not or never only Sanskrit. There must have been some or other Dravidian language, the so-called Dravidian language. We do not know for sure that which Dravidian language was there. Was it Tamil? Because we don't have the record, nothing that we have, say, prior to 2nd or 3rd century BC, available for any of the, say, inscription or in some place or mention of it as a language. So we cannot say whether it was Tamil or Kannada or Telugu or Tulu or Kurukh or Malto. That could be any of the languages of that family, so-called Dravidian family. Similarly, what we see today as Austro-Asiatic, so-called Austro-Asiatic language family, in India, the branches we have two here, Munda, the biggest almost all the subgroup, and there's one representative group, Mon Khmer. Mon and Khmer both are languages in parts of Thailand and Cambodia. So Mon Khmer in India is represented by the Khasi language in Assam, Meghalaya, in the northeast India. Now, so since we don't have anything, any written text, etc., available in these languages, so no one can say that which of these Munda languages, say whether Santali or Ho or Mundari or Khadiya must have been, or Juang or Sora, they must have been there. And look at the development of languages. Even if we have the recorded, say, history of some of the modern Dravidian, Austroasiatic, and so-called Indo-Aryan languages, we know that it takes many centuries for a language to a language to develop into another, or on a dialect continuum where we have many dialects of the same language varieties, and one of them becomes or assumes the status of a language. So it takes a long time. It doesn't happen overnight. So what we see today of, say, the so-called Austroasiatic or Tibeto-Burman or so-called Indo-Aryan or Dravidian languages, at that period of time, 6, 7, or 8,000 years ago, there must have been, say, one or two languages, not so many, as we say, like in Munda, we'll find some 70, 80 languages in India. And we know that, and similarly in Dravidian also, many have acquired the status in modern times that of a language. And although there are only, say, few differences lexically or structurally in the Tibeto-Burman languages of India, we have the same situation. Just to say about 200 or 250 years ago, we did not have different languages like, say, Paite, Waifei, Gangte, Simte, Sute, etc. So, but because all of these languages, which have the status of, say, recognition by the state, used in school, medium or subject. So what happens? So these must have been one at some point of time, say 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago. If you look at the Indo-Aryan languages, so-called Indo-Aryan languages, the modern language, we see the same situation. We have, say, Assamese, Maghi, Maithili, Odia, Bhojpuri, Marathi, Gujarati, Bangla, and Sindhi, so many, Nepali, so many languages. But there was a time, this is recorded, and we have evidence of that, just about, say, some 1,000 to 1,200 years ago, we did not have this kind of distinction as it exists today among the languages like Assamese, Bangla, Odia, Gujarati, Marathi. They were kind of in a position, in a state where no one could say that, okay, this is Marathi, or this is Gujarati, or this is Bhojpuri, or that is Maghi, or that is Maithili. So that must have been very difficult. So what I mean to say that even, say, before the present age, when we had this Mohenjo-daro and Harappa civilization, the most ancient civilization for which everything is recorded, evidences are there. So that were there, and many languages must have been there, and languages must have had dialects, and dialect continuum must have been there. So starting from part of Iran, to Afghanistan. If we take, say, Sanskrit itself, so Iran to Afghanistan, then Balochistan, uh, Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka, yes, Nepal, and different parts of the present day geographical India. So Sanskrit must have had a dialect continuum, and there must have been the practice existing at the same time when Sanskrit was there. So there must have not been a situation where we had Sanskrit alone, and then that gave birth to, say, practice like situation. They must have coexisted. As I already mentioned, that the Panini grammar and even Panini and Patanjali and many other grammarians, they all mentioned that there were several dialects or different forms of bhasha. So that is the situation. Now, coming to the present day situation. So we have two things here to keep in mind. See, one is that in past something happened. We had something. But if we carry on only that, then we'll be in trouble. So now we have moved away and the society had changed. The nation has changed. Many developments have taken place. So we have two situations. One is we had something. Okay, only few languages were there, and some are documented, like Sanskrit and also old Persian, Greek, Latin, etc. Just a few of them. Others are not. So we have a situation here that we have to look at the India as a nation, as a Rashtra, where we have these languages, and the classification, of course, was given by, as Shastriji mentioned, that the classification was given by the colonial, in the 19th century colonial period. Not It's not that it's completely wrong, the classification of languages. During that time, the advancement that has been made in linguistics and other areas, so that people's idea was that, like, we have a relationship among languages which is genetic. That means they must have come from one source, one mother, and other languages. And then we have a typological classification also, that if the features are shared in certain area, then we say that all these languages, irrespective of how they are genetically related, they can be classed into one area, one language family. And the third one is the morphological classification. That's not relevant so much, because so three types are there, where we can have analytic language, where every morpheme or root is considered something like a word, separate word. Wherever they go, they will retain their shape and meaning. And we have synthetic languages. Then again, two subtypes of it. We have the inflectional, fusional, and agglutinative there, agglutinative. So both types come under synthetic, that one morpheme can carry more than one meaning, and it may combine with other morpheme in such a way that it will be very difficult to draw the boundary, that which morpheme means what. For example, a simple example I'll give you, like if we say in Hindi, मैं घर जाऊंगा. So now jaunga is one word there, but the ga part there, or u part there, ja is the root, and u and ga, it's difficult to say that which part of unga indicates masculine, which part indicates singular, which part indicates future, that too simple future, and so on. So that is one. And then, so all the languages, if you look at the Indian subcontinent, even say Iran, the Persian language that we have there, Pashto, that side, starting. Why? Because I am also trained in that let's say system. That's why all the time I'm mentioning Iran and then come to this side. Actually, should have been India, say the Punjab, the Sapta Sindhu area, and then beginning from there, and then go to say Balochistan, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, or a single Sri Lanka and other parts. So now we have a situation. Yeah, so look at all the languages, even though they are genetically classified uh, as Austroasiatic or Tibeto-Burman or Indo-Aryan, what we find is that, say, even within the so-called Indo-Aryan, whatever similarity, the shared features that we have, typologically, structurally, and genetically, meaning what carries the genes of a language. So we have the pronouns, the verbs, and the categories that verbs take. Those are the basic say differentiating items. We say language is a language if it's different language because of the differences in pronominal system and then agreement with verb and verbal system. So that is adjective, adverbs, and other things you can change, but the language will not change. So if you look at all the features that all the members of these language families in India, whether it's Andamanese or Tai-Kadai or Austroasiatic, that is Munda, Mon Khmer, or Dravidian, whether South Dravidian or North Dravidian, Kurukh and Malto. So we will find that everything, almost everything, is one. The Atma, the soul of these languages, even though genetically classified as belonging to different language families, they all form one family, one group. So even like a bigger, say, language family, so-called Indo-European, there we have, say, so many hundreds of languages in Europe, then in the Indian subcontinent and other parts as well. Now, so whatever similarities, whatever the shared features they have, say, if we accept Indo-European in that way, that we had a Proto-Indo-European language, which is a reconstructed hypothetical language, it never existed. And then an imaginary language group created by the colonial people, that Proto-Indo-Iranian, that just to show that the people, some people migrated or they invaded India, they came from outside and they came to Iran first and they stayed there for about 200 years and then they came to India and here they wrote the text that we have available, the Rig Veda part of it. Many part of it were composed later that we know. Rig Veda was not composed in just 1 or 2 or 5 years. So it took a long time for the different parts of it and the other Vedas also to be recorded. Okay. So now, so whatever similarities, shared features in terms of vocabulary, the grammatical structure, we have among the members of the so-called language family in India is not shared by the other members of non-Indian, say, languages. So what we have, say, if we take the Austroasiatic language, for example, we have Mundari, Santali, Ho, Khadiya, many other Zhuang, Sora, etc. So many other 70, 75 are there in India. So this phonology, whether at the level of morphology, whether at the level of vocabulary, syntax, all these languages, they share among themselves and also with the languages of other families of India. But those features are not actually shared by the Southeast Asian languages, Austroasiatic languages, because we are aware that this is what has been told, that the Austroasiatic languages came to India, Indian subcontinent, from Southeast Asia, Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, some 4,000 to 3,500 years BC. Now, so if that was the origin of, say, languages of East Asian Austroasiatic languages are analytic or isolational, that morpheme boundaries can be always visible. Morphemes can occur independently, meaning they carry their meaning wherever they go, and even the shape. But all our Munda languages, whether big or small, you look at the structure, they are inflectional fusional, like say Hindi or Sanskrit or Bangla or Tamil or Gujarati or Telugu, Marathi, all these features are shared, or retroflex consonants and so on. Vocabulary is a well-known thing, although some people will intentionally not accept it because they have to show that India, whether linguistically or other way, is not united. India is not one unity. So for that and other motivated and vested interest, they may say so. But the reality is that even vocabulary is shared, whichever part. It may look different on surface because in the past, say many thousand years, some changes must have taken, which we all observe that in just 10, 20, 30 years, phonological changes take place in languages. Morphological and lexical changes take place so fast. So that is very natural. So that's why for a untrained person or unconscious person, it may not be obviously visible or audible that, okay, oh, this word is found in all the languages of India. For example, in Kashmiri, you'll think that, this word is so different. It doesn't resemble any other, say, words of other languages, but that's not true. So if we pay little attention, then it will become clear that between, say, 40 to 70% of the lexical stock of all these languages in India, we share. And of course, at the level of grammatical structure also, like certain features, we have like what is called reduplication. So like we have a word and you repeat it for different semantic purposes. So like bacha bacha. Bacha is child in Hindi, but bacha English सीख रहा है. So children, it has become plural. और घर घर में TV है. घर is singular, घर घर में. Or even at the level of verb, we can do that. So बैठे बैठे, मैं बैठे बैठे थक गया. So while seated for some time, I got tired. So this we'll find in languages of all the so-called Austroasiatic, Dravidian, Indo-Aryan families of India. Now, retroflex consonants we'll find even, say, whether it's a Tipto-Burman or Austroasiatic or Indo-Aryan, we do find this feature in all the languages of India. Of course, there will be exceptions because then if we did not have, say, something developing independently or having innovation or some language losing something, then we'll have only one language even now, whichever we had some 4,000, 5,000 years ago. So this is natural. So when we have a dialect continuum, dialects are there, and languages are in contact, dialects are in contact. So some changes take place, and dialects develop into languages socio-politically. That's why languages differ because of some differences are there. So nothing wrong in that, and that is a very natural process. So we have that. So it will never be, and it is not the case that that 100% in 100% cases will have all the features shared by all the languages of a particular so-called language family. That won't be there. But look at the basic structure of all the language. Even at the level of phonology, I said that we have certain vowels that we share. Retroflex consonant is one. How we arrange the consonants in syllables. That also how we stress when we speak. So we particular way of putting intonation or stress on certain part of the words and sentences. That is a common style in all the languages of India. At the level of word, we'll have, say, what we call expressives or echo formation. Like in Tamil, we have, if it's tiger, so say uli, and then tiger, and etc. Things like that, which is not specified. So puli gili, if we have tea and coffee and many other items to drink, then so tea ghee will have same is true. So bamboo snake, so bamboo gimbu will have that. It's there in all the members of the Dravidian language family, and Indo-Aryan also. You'll find that most of them will have it. So Punjabi, chai, shai, है ना? Pani, shani, Hindi will have ghar, var, khana, wana, kapda, vapda. Bangla will have hat, tat, gaur, tor, bari, tari. So all these languages will have these features. Uh, Same at the level of sentence, you'll find that the languages of a particular so-called family that we have, language family in India, what they share is not found in the non-members of that family, non-Indian members of that family. And one such example is the subject object verb arrangement. This is whether it's Dravidian or Austroasiatic or Indo-Aryan or Dai-Kadai, Tibeto-Burman, any say language, you'll find the same Munda also, except and there will be some exception. And we have Kashmir is a little bit different, and no one knows for why, what region. And Khasi is a little bit different. It's not that is completely SVO, unlike other Indian languages. So we all have subject, object, verb order. And look at this feature that as we had, say, whether in Sanskrit or Tamil, I'm talking about the oldest languages, some of the oldest. I'm not mentioning all of them. Or you look at some of the Tibeto-Burman languages, Munda languages. This is one feature that we can just have the subject and say the verb. Or we can, if suppose we introduce someone or talk about ourselves, so auxiliary verb may not be needed. So in Tamil, for example, we can say Nan Manavan. I am a student. You don't have to have am. No, am, is, are, etc. There. This is one way of shared thing. In Sanskrit, you can have aham chhatraha, say something like that. My Sanskrit is not that good. So, but this is fairly common, very common among all the language families of India. So that gives us this idea that now, see, the purpose of, although the basic idea behind classification of languages genetically was initially, it may not have been so, say, motivated or with vested interest. People wanted to know, especially the Europeans, that where they come from or where they belong to, because they saw that their languages, which were known at that time, well known at that time, so like Latin or Celtic, Irish, Greek, or say German, etc. They must had this have had this curiosity or to find out that where they come from. So that led them to see that and then later on Sanskrit was discovered by Jones. It was already there, but and then they saw that there is so much of similarity. Uh, of say words, some words, and partly some features of grammar. So it must have been no, they must have had some common source: Greek, Latin, Celtic, Irish, German, Lithuanian, Albanian, and others. And Sanskrit, they must have come from one source, because this idea at that time and even now, partly, it was there that the world started with the Bible, that we had some. So the Earth is only about 6,500 years old, and then we had say Adam, Eve, and their children, Cain and Abel, and the history, and then Sam, Japheth, and others. So they wanted to show that nothing can be older than that Bible, older than Bible, or no language can be older than the language of Tower of Babel, and that since Bible was there, written in say Greek and English, of course, it was there in Hebrew, but then that politics also played a great role in 18th, 19th century. We all are aware of that. So Semitic, so the kind of hatred towards, say, Semitic people, and also hatred or disrespect towards the Indian people, because it was known to them that this, for say, many thousand years, India, Indian subcontinent, has been the cradle of civilization, language, in everything. So they did not, in a way, accept that. So just to prove that theirs is the oldest language, theirs is the oldest civilization, and so on. All these myths were created, and language also became a victim to that. Okay, how can India be the original homeland of these people, the Indo-European, the part, and the similarity? Although this is not the time, but it's well established that see, both we lack evidences, conclusive evidences for both, whether the people, the so-called Aryan or Indian people, migrated from other parts of the world from India. That can also be 100% true. And it is also true that there were people coming to Indian subcontinent, but they did not, from outside, but they did not bring anything, race, no, people of any particular caste or ethnicity or race or language from outside. So that is incorrect. That is wrong. And there are evidences to show that that is completely baseless. They are all conjectures, and the language family, this concept was in that term was given by the those people with vested interest and motivated people, because they wanted to see that in the colonial period that India remains say divided, the people remain divided. So in spite of knowing that all these languages of India, they genetically, meaning the people's no, cultural genetics, or the ideal, the ideology, the idea of nation, the idea of society. So that root, that soul, not genetic, soul, Atma, that was shared by all. They knew about it. Then they imposed on us this divide, the Aryan, they came from. It's proven that Aryan was not a race which they portrayed, or the Dravidian was not a race as they, or even a language. The Dravidian was not a language. Aryan was not a language. Like Austroasiatic or Munda, what something, whether in our genes or in the Atma of our languaging, or whichever family we say, tell them that they belong to. So this was all that created by the colonial masters to keep India divided, and language being such a forceful, visible thing related to identity, because this is what we can see that, okay, this is part of me, language. So just manipulating the language and race, intermingling this idea, whereas there's no relationship between, say, race or caste and a language. So many races, many castes, or people in different areas may speak one language and vice versa also. But the British, they used this thing to keep our society divided, and which now is the time we are, of course, late, but not too late. Now is the time to look into this concept that we are one. So, meaning we are the language, we are one family of language. That, and since it is Bharat, so we can have say American Indian, or Albanian. Albania is the Lithuanian. We can have Germanic. Germany is there, so it's, Germanic. So same way we have the Indian, the Bharatiya Bhasha Pariwar, Indian language family, and within that we can have this a matter of say debate and contemplation. We should think, and so what names could be given. So we can keep the name as a Indian Bharatiya Bhasha, or Indian, just Indian, and then the different groups of it, or sub families, can be Dravidian, Tibeto-Burman, because for historical reasons, Tibeto-Burman, we know that although, as I mentioned already, that we were one in one area, we belong to India, but now geographically, politically, they are different countries. So we can keep Tibeto-Burman, but certainly we do not need that idea that Proto-Indo-European, non-existent, hypothetical language, and created, reconstructed, say, on the basis of very weak evidences. And so that should be now rejected. And we'll have, so instead of telling that people of India are some children of, say, Proto-Indo-European speaking people or language, and then again, so grandsons or grandchildren of say, Proto-Indo-European. So then the Iranian and even Dravidian at times, the famous people like McAlpin or Caldwell and many others have shown that they also came from outside, from Elam in Iran, or sometimes Scythian. So they came from some Central Asia, etc. So all these things are wrong. These are myths and unproven, baseless know, things. So it's time to reject that, and we have this idea uh, of Bharatiya Bhasha Pariwar, where names are immaterial, whichever name we give, because there are some differences, so that should be retained. That differences are there, so some families can be different, but for the benefit of, for the sake of unity of India, this is required that we have language being one of the great shapers of identity. So it is a prerequisite for that towards building united, Rashtra, India. Yeah. So that's all from me of now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Yes.
much, Dr. Mishra, for sharing your perspectives on the topic that you have chosen to speak on today. The topic was India as a linguistic area and diversity in the unity of Indian languages. I'm aware that Dr. Mishra is having some health challenges currently, and despite that, he has chosen to continue and go through with this symposium. I'm particularly thankful that you
Thank
did
you.
so, and I wish you a speedy recovery, Dr. Mishra.